There's one thing I want you to do for me.
What?
Come here.
What?
Win. Win.
What are we waiting for? Take this!
It's Wednesday. It's 8:30. It's time for EOP. I'm Freddie Burns. No Al, no Joe. And I know you don't want to listen to me for an hour. So we jam-packed this with four very special guests covering the Eagles, Sixers, Phillies, and Flyers. We'll get to them in a moment. We have a ton to talk about. We just got off the combine, so Chris Deibs will be on the show, draft expert from the Painted Lines, does stuff with EOP as well, to get into the combine and how that affects the Eagles, especially with free agency around the corner and so many holes that seem to be developing on the defensive side of the football field as we continue to see tweets and leaks that, a lot of these guys are going to get paid elsewhere. We will also talk Sixers with Sean Barnard of Pick Swap Media. He's a Sixers writer, excellent content, constantly posting post-game tweets, in live game tweets. Give him a follow if you get a chance. Another great listen. Then we have Haley Taylor of 97.5, as well as the Bell Smashers Phillies podcast, to come on and talk Phillies with us. Excited about that. And then we have our own Matty B, who will be here to talk some Flyers. We're only going to do a little Flyers, like very little, because that's all they deserve. But we will touch on some Flyers. Before we get into the combine, I got to go through our very amazing advertisers. And that first up is David R. Cherry Esquire, cherryinjurylaw.com. If you have any issues with workers' compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, or criminal law, the Cherry Firm PC is the one for you. Give them a call, 610-565-0300. Call them now. Also, you need tickets to the big game? We got you covered there. You tired of paying the higher prices from the other secondary markets? You got to go to Sherry's Ticket Town. Put the promo code in EOP10, get 10% off. They are 9 times out of 10 cheaper or will be cheaper as the game gets closer. So those quick tickets to the Phillies games, Sixers, even Flyers, you probably get the Flyers for a pretty good deal. And let's say you're not a sports fan, you want to go to a concert. I got tickets on Disney on Ice, 15 rows off the ice for, I think it was $80 plus the 10% off. Everywhere else was $100 plus. So go to sherrystickets.com, type in the promo code EOP10. Also, let's say you don't want to just go to the game, you want to take a trip elsewhere. We got you covered there. PhillySportsTrips.com. They are the absolute best. I've done travel places all over, all different companies. These guys are top of the line, high level trips. You don't have to think about a thing. Everything is covered. Their next trip coming up, they're going to have a tailgate for opening day for the Phillies. But if you want to get out, ever been to Yankee Stadium yet? I went with them last year. Or 2 years ago. It was freaking amazing. Get out to the Bronx, April 3rd. Go to PhillySportsTrips.com. Book your trip today. And let's say you don't want to go to either. You don't want to go to the game. You don't want to do a trip. Well, I got the bar for you. Dolan's Bar in Ridley Park, 24 East Sellers Ave. Great vibes there, great people, great food, great beer, quizzo, music, just a bunch of great times. They're always running some kind of event with, personalities there, whether it's old players, new players, current players. Go to dolansbar.com and check them out. So, to open up the show, I got my Villanova hat on because they're opening the Big East tournament, but I gotta put my my Eagles hat on here, showing off the bald. It's Eagles time now, so we got got the birds on, and I'm going to bring on a very special guest from the Painted Lines and EOP as well. Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Give him a follow right now. Chris Deibs, draft expert. Deibs, we did a show earlier, Party on Broad. By the way, check that out, 6:15 on Wednesdays. How you feeling, man?
Good, man. I got to say, bald is beautiful. Bald is beautiful here. I'm honored that you had me on before Sean Barnard, the great Sean Barnard. I guess it's age before beauty, but man, what's going on, bro?
I know you got to get up early tomorrow. That's why I got you on early. I'm doing a friendly thing, but I appreciate you coming on. Your Twitter's just filled with draft coverage. I'll compliment you till the sun goes down. It's just a great content. I want to start off with the combine, obviously. Who was and some of these questions will be redundant from our show earlier, but I have to repeat them. Who was your, I guess, biggest takeaway, the best combine performance that you saw?
I mean, if you're talking top of the draft, it's got to be Anthony Richardson. Like we talked about on Party on Broad, just wowed everybody from that 40-yard dash, 4.44, best vert since 2003, 40.5-inch vert. He just broke all the records, man. His upside, his athleticism is just so tantalizing. It's now the conversation of him whether or not being worthy of a number one selection. That's how good he was. He's going to crush the interviews. And we all saw this coming. Well, at least I saw it coming many months ago. So Anthony Richardson is a big-time riser. I thought Christian Gonzalez, a big-time Eagles target, had a really good day. Some of the other big names like Devin Witherspoon did not run. Another target for the Eagles, like a Miles Murphy, did not run. But overall, Anthony Richardson, man, what an athletic freak, man. We've never seen that. And we've never seen that kind of athleticism from the quarterback position. And I don't want to be the general manager that passes on that dude, because if it clicks, holy cow.
Now that brings the question. He needs to develop. He needs some developmental time. Let's say he falls to 10. Would you even entertain the idea of making him the backup quarterback, trading him in 3 years, or possibly he becomes your guy if something goes wrong with Hurts?
Absolutely not.
You learned that lesson what went?
I'm not about that chaos anymore. We got to move on from there. I mean, he's not an accurate quarterback inside the pocket. He's got mechanical flaws. His footwork needs work. I mean, he's had flashes, but so did Malik Willis last year. He's a much better prospect than Malik Willis, no question. But for me, that's a hard path, or an easy path, as I like to say.
I would pass as well. No drama needed in this organization. There are
a lot of holes to fill on defense.
A ton of holes. Before we get into some of those holes, can you give me a guy from the combine that, you know, he was probably a second day guy, maybe, that performed so well that now you think he's moved his way into a day, maybe he's a day 3 guy, let's say. He moved his way into day 2 or day 1.
A day 3 guy into a day 1.
Or day 2. He just improved his stock.
Let me go with a guy out of Northwestern, and I don't know if a lot of people know about this dude, but his name is Adetomiwa Adebawore out of Northwestern. He's only 6'1", but man, he can play inside. He can play outside. He had a 4.54 40-yard dash, excellent measurables, 37.5 inch vertical. That was 3rd among edge rushers, 10.5 broad jump, tied for 5th. That broad jump was even better than Trayvon Walker, and I was really high on Trayvon Walker last year. People made fun of me calling him a top 10 pick, just like Anthony Richardson, and here we are. It's almost kind of rinse and repeat here. But Adetomiwa Adebawore out of Northwestern is a dude, 6'2", 282 pounds, has the same level of explosiveness as a J.J. Watt, as a Mario Williams athletically. And if you know anything about Howie Roseman, he loves to rotate those defensive linemen. And for a guy that has that versatility, that's definitely a guy that's on the rise.
How about someone that was top 10, maybe top 15, or even first round that kind of played their way or combined their way out of the first round?
I'm going to go with Jordan Addison. I think is
Agreed.
dropping like a rock. And the name just escaped me. But let's start with Jordan Addison. Had a great 2022 at USC. Played with legend Caleb Williams, who will be the #1 pick in the 2024 NFL draft. If me personally, I would punt till that draft because Caleb Williams, we already know what that guy can do. Top to bottom is the best quarterback if you added him to this group. But Jordan Addison tested really poorly in the draft. Was tested like an above average athlete. And for a wide receiver position that is lacking overall, I thought he got jumped. He came into the preseason as my #1 wide receiver to watch, and he's been falling. I look at guys like Zay Flowers. I look at guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, his split time was outstanding. And then, of course, you've got Quentin Johnston. So there's those three guys are still not among my top 15, top 20 guys. They're still kind of pushed down just a tad. Mark Henry Jr. of Chalk Talk will disagree with that. But for me, I would probably put those in the 20s and 30s. And you've got some pretty decent depth at wide receiver, like a Josh Downs, like a Jalen Hyatt, that are all contending for that same spot in that like back end of round 1, day 2 range. So for me, Jordan Addison's a guy that's been kind of falling.
Let's get to the holes now. CJ Gardner-Johnson tweeted out essentially his goodbye to the Eagles fans because he knows we just can't afford them. Let's talk about safety then. What players do you see the Eagles as possibilities to fill that hole in the draft?
I mean, if you're going to go first round, it starts and ends with Brian Branch. This guy, I have a top 20 grade on him. He's the Swiss Army knife of the safety class. I think Howie Roseman would love Brian Branch is because he's played in the slot. He's played up at the line. He's played in different kind of safety roles. His versatility is his #1 calling card. And just like the defensive line, we know Howie Roseman loves him some versatility back there. Got excellent read and reactability. He can blitz the quarterback. He can make plays on the football. Just a plug and play starter from day one. Brian Branch is a really good player, really good nose for the football, matches well against size, displays burst, transition quickness to play coverage on the outside. I think Brian Branch can kind of do it all as a defensive back. And the other guy I really like is Sidney Jones. For better or worse, he can do kind of the same things. He was, again, another one of my big winners of the Senior Bowl, and he's been climbing up the draft board. He had a terrific Senior Bowl. He had a terrific combine. If we had to rank defensive backs, he's probably in he's right there in for my top 10. I would say my top 10. So Sidney Brown is another guy that I think we should look out for. And the biggest name, like we talked on Party on Broad, and I've always doubted this, people want to hate on Keely Ringo for getting torched by Marvin Harrison Jr., who will arguably could be one of the greatest college wide receivers of all time when all said and done. He will be a top 5 pick in next year's draft.
He did get lit up, though.
Are we overreacting just a tad to get lit up by one of the greatest of all time? Just a tad. Who, by the way, might probably best project as a safety at the next level. So Keely Ringo with his measurables, another great combine for Keely Ringo, tested really well, could be best at safety at the next level.
And that's kind of comparative to, there's parallels to the way CJ Gardner-Johnson can move up and play slot corner and then go back to safety. So that is a good comparison. Speaking of corner, Bradbury likely out of here as well. Who's your top corner? First round, let's stay around that. There's a couple there at 10. Corner, you got Gonzalez. You got, who's your favorite? And who do you think's likely that the Eagles could be in position to take?
Oh, this is the best position in the draft, in my opinion. Cornerback 1A is Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois. He is sensational. You look at this guy. He has done nothing but climb the draft process over the last couple of months. 6 feet, 180 pounds. A ball hawk. He had 13 passes defended in 2022. In man coverage, only allowed 7 catches and 0 touchdowns per PFF. Quarterbacks have posted a 21.3 passer rating when targeted, receivers covered by Witherspoon. Just some of the best read and react defensive players in this class. And just go watch some tape. You'll see him blow up running backs, blow up tight ends, blow up receivers behind the line of scrimmage. His A to B speed, closing speed, is like Asante Samuel-esque. Like, it is remarkable. And but he plays with a physical brand of football. He blows people up behind the line of scrimmage. Next up, Christian Gonzalez had a really good combine. You look at this guy; he's just physically elite in many different ways. Size, length, fluidity. There's a smoothness, natural level athleticism that he presents. Man, he's been compared to Patrick Surtain, and he tested even better. He's explosive. He's fluid. He's fast. He's everything you want as an outside corner, a potential CB1. Another guy who tested really well, as expected, was Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. Elite length. I mean, at 6'2", 192 pounds, his wingspan is elite. And real quickly, another guy that I love, he's my number 4 corner, because I'm actually working on my corner rankings right now. Final corner rankings is Emmanuel Forbes. Emmanuel Forbes is slept on. He's out of Mississippi State, really good size, 6+ feet, 32+ inch arms, but just immense production. Elite athlete, 4.3 second 40-yard dash. He had 20 passes defensed in 2022. He has 14 interceptions in 3 seasons. He's just small. He's 166 pounds. He'll add weight. He'll add muscle at the next level. Emmanuel Forbes is just one of the best playmakers in this draft, and I don't understand why people don't talk about him enough.
There's some good names there, Deibs, and for corner for me, even if Bradbury rolls, I would still want to draft a corner. I kind of like what Joe Barnard did back in the day, even though we scratched our heads. You had Lito and Vincent there, and he went ahead and drafted. I'm sorry, you had Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor there, and he went ahead and drafted Lito, Shepard, and Sheldon Brown. We're like, what do you mean we don't need corners? And basically set it up that we had cheap corners for the next 4 to 8 years. So corners definitely a premium position I think we need to address. Another guy on the way out, a huge pass rush in the middle. Javon Hargrave will likely get a big payday elsewhere. Do we have any defensive tackles that you take at 10 or maybe at 30?
This one's tough, man. It's not good. I mean, after like Jalen Carter, after like Brian Brzee, I mean, that is a polarizing prospect. Holy cow. Maybe Jalen Carter falls just a tad due to everything that's going on at number 10.
I was crushing some guy, Joe Castro, on Twitter about even putting him in the mock draft, Carter, and then literally the next day that news dropped, and I'm like, oh my God, the guy might be right. He could fall.
I would draft him in a heartbeat. I mean, he's my number 1 prospect on my big board. I'm a Jalen Carter 1A, Will Anderson 1B guy, and I think Jalen Carter has a level of twitch, athleticism, pass rush upside that you do not find at that position. I mean, when you think of like an Aaron Donald, when you think of guys that make such an impact on elite defenses that are the true engines of the great defenses, the interior, defensive lineman, that pass rusher that can play all 3 downs, play alongside Jordan Davis, man. You got to think about it. Another big guy, not a big guy, I take that back, but a guy that has climbed the ranks, especially, is Kalijah Cansey out of Pittsburgh. That dude has had a terrific combine, ran a really good 40, measured bigger than he was actually at Pitt. He's only 6'1", but what he does is not unlike Jalen Carter, is that he is a great pass rusher. I don't know how much he can be a 3-down starter at the next level. He needs to develop, he needs to grow. He's, again, compared to Aaron Donald, of course, out of Pitt. But I have my questions, but if he's at number 30, you have to think about it, because that his natural ability to attack the quarterback paired alongside Jordan Davis and his run stuffing, it makes a lot of sense.
Awesome information, Deibs. Thank you very much for your time. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. My man over there. We do Party on Broad on Wednesday nights at 6:15. Go check that out for everything Sixers, Eagles, NFL Draft. My guys and I, we've been doing BGN Radio, covering the NFL Draft as well. And after that, you can find me sleeping. That's basically all I do.
And work a full-time job. Well, thanks
What's
for your
that?
time.
What's that? I don't even know what that is.
We'll see you around. Have a good one, man. Follow him on Twitter. Big follow if you're into the NFL draft. Good stuff. See you, Deibs.
Later, bro.
All right, next up, and before we get into that, I gotta switch hats. I gotta pull out my my Sixers hat here. All right, because it's Sixer. Oh, it's not even on. My kids must have been wearing it. I don't like showing the bald head for too long. That's too many seconds with the bald head. But what I like to bring on now, special guest. Hold on, have I got that set up? He does it all. He follows Twitter. He's just constantly Sixer stuff all day long, during the game, after the game. He's a writer for Phillies Sports Network, founder of Pick Swap Media. Welcome to the show, Sean Barnard. Sean, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, Freddie, appreciate you for having me too. I love the hat switch. That's a good looking hat right there. So I'm happy to be on.
I got this hat during like the process era they did like the last game of the season. I went and every hat was like 76% off or something. And I got this for every hat was $7.60. I got it for $7.60.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Can't beat that.
Sixers on a roll right now. The roller coaster. It's not really a roller coaster though. They're 22 games above 500. I feel like Sixers Twitter makes it feel like a roller coaster. Where are you at right now with the Philadelphia 76ers?
Yeah, I would say it's been way more pessimistic than the actual on-court product has been for most of this year. If you take this exact style of play, results, players, and take them all out of Sixers uniforms and put them in any other team, I guarantee the perception is pretty happy of it. But there is that being scarred from how things have shaken out these past couple of years, and the disappointment that is still like in the forefront of everyone's mind. And I understand it and I feel it too. But I will say this year's team, like, there is a scrappiness, a competitiveness, and a will to win that hasn't always been there with this era of Sixers teams. They're just kind of finding ways to win, and it hasn't always been pretty. There's still defensive stuff to nitpick and some stylistic things that need to be worked on and ironed out over these last couple games. But there's just a fight and a drive and an ability to kind of win games that they probably shouldn't, that I haven't always seen. So I'm starting to buy in. This past road trip, going 4-1, 2 back-to-backs, and digging out against all very good teams is impressive stuff. So I'm starting to buy in on this team.
I agree. And that main word, fight, is what I see in this team. Even that in that Mavericks loss, they come all the way back. And one player that I'm noticing fight from that I hadn't seen in a past time on the Rockets, and there were times you didn't see it in Brooklyn, but I'm seeing it outside of his play, which has been outstanding. You can't even argue with his play. I see this guy diving for balls. I see this guy getting on the ground. I saw him in the Pacers game the other night, dive out of bounds, grab a ball, not dive out, but dive towards the out of bounds, grab the ball and hit it off someone's leg. Mr. James Harden has been unbelievable. I think he's my favorite Sixer. And I was a hater when he was on the Rockets because I just hated his style, even though I recognized how good he was. Talk about Harden and his impact for this squad.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's been everything Sixers fans could have asked for and hoped for this year. And to me, what's been most impressive is him kind of striking that balance between being a playmaker, being a scorer. It's really impressive when you look at his career arc, going from the surefire best one-on-one scorer across the entire NBA to then becoming the league's best passer just in the span of about 8 years. It's just crazy stuff. And I personally had my doubts at the end of last season. He wasn't the player that he was at the tail end of that he once was in a Sixers uniform. And with that being said, that's still a positive player. He was still making important entry passes, running the offense, but he wasn't really that second co-star that I think we were all hoping for. But he really did just get fully healthy and turn back the clock this year. He's got a new burst in his step. He's able to get to the rim, that step back. He's shooting the 3-point percentage, or shooting the 3-pointers at a career high rate, which is crazy stuff at this point in his career. So the efficiency's been great. The will to win there. James Harden's got as much to prove as anybody, and it's showing in his play.
No doubt about that. I want to move over to another guy that actually you did a couple videos on this. So this is right up your alley. So KJ McDaniels The first few games kind of looked a little mad, a little lost. Might even been like, is he not ready for it? I still see dribbling issues with him, no doubt about it. But is he a starter? Like, because there's rumblings that he should be starting now. And what are your thoughts on that?
Jalen McDaniels.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
You hit me with the
Listen.
KJ McDaniels, who was awesome. I love.
Yeah.
Can't hate that
Jalen.
either. But yeah,
Thank
I like Jalen McDaniels. He's still a weird player. The Sixers just seem to have an attractiveness towards these strange kind of unique players. Like, he's, as much as he is a more complete two-way player than Matisse, he's still not like your quote unquote like normal basketball player. But he's 6'9". He's athletic. What jumps out to me is his scrappiness on the boards and his just like willingness to compete on that end. The Sixers don't really have a guy that gets that. PJ Tucker sometimes will compete for boards underneath, but they need a guy that's just athletic. He's a lob threat. That's a new area for their offense. He's switchable defensively. He can handle the ball a little bit. So I like what he brings to this team. Defensively is going to be where his kind of money's made on how things are going to rotate, and having a guy that can defend the perimeter in multiple positions. So Jalen McDaniels looks good. He's very much been like on his best behavior since he got to Philadelphia in terms of like Hornets fans will talk about how he made some poor shot selections and things like that. But there's like a difference when you're on a losing team versus a winning team. And I think having a defined role is important for him. So I'm curious what his minutes are going to fully look like. But I think Doc Rivers trusts him more than I expected him to, which is a positive sign right there.
He was kind of forced into it with the injuries to Harris and Tucker in that game. You brought up PJ Tucker. He's been maligned by fans, even to the point he's hating on the fans on a couple tweets there. Stay on that side or whatever, similar to Ben Simmons. Yeah. I think he's had a good 10-game stretch here, maybe 7-game stretch or so. More of what you expect to see from him, a playoff PJ, if you will. Talk about, is that what you expect from him, or do you think he's kind of washed?
Yeah, no, I'm bought in on PJ. PJ Tucker shows up for big games, and that's all the Sixers need him for. Like, there will be that Celtics game that they unfortunately lost on the Tatum shot there. Like, PJ Tucker got 13 rebounds in the span of 16 minutes, and most of them coming on the offensive glass. And that ability to just step up and, like, it feels like when they need him, he's there. And that's really all they're asking. And the regular season has become like increasingly unimportant across the NBA, almost to a point where it's kind of frustrating how much teams seem to sleepwalk through it. But PJ Tucker has earned that luxury more so than anyone else on the Sixers roster. And I do have the confidence he's going to show up for playoffs. Even the offense, like the volume has not been there, but the efficiency has been. He's shooting over 40% from three. He's knocking his like efficiency splits in the same way you hope. And really, the Sixers don't need another guy who is high volume, high usage. You want a guy who's content on just kind of sitting in the corner, taking the three when it's there, and for the most part, just doing the grunt work defensively. So that's why he's here. He's gonna make his impact felt in the playoffs for sure. And there will be a postseason game where PJ Tucker just swings things by his effort, his peskiness, and everything else that he brings to the table.
Yeah, if you expected points per game from PJ Tucker, you didn't know who you were waiting on to come here. Larry Brown would love this guy, as you said that. He would fit right in with them 0-1 Sixers. Just give Iverson the ball and I'll do all the grunt work. Mm-hmm. A guy that was up and down, hot and cold. I think he may be the key to maybe even a Buck series as far as, matchup wise and making Giannis have to play defense. George Niang. Mm-hmm. In that Bucks game, I thought when Doc switched off there, it wasn't that he shut down anyone, but he forced Giannis to have to guard the three, which puts more effort on both ends of the ball. How big do you think Niang's impact is going to be in this playoffs?
It's going to be interesting. I will say, truly is kind of a matchup by matchup case. I do think if they get a matchup with the Bucks, he does become a pretty important player because he's not as vulnerable defensively in some matchups. His 3-point, he is objectively the best shooter, just pure shooter on this Sixers roster. There was a point in time where maybe Furkan Korkmaz gets that, but Georges Niang is the guy when it comes to, he got his couple minutes of fame again the other night. But Niang in that Bucks game shooting 5 of 6 from three. He's able to just change a game by spacing the floor. His willingness off the shoot is the most like impressive thing and important thing to this team. Is what he just needs an inch of space to let it fly. And while there's other good shooters, of course, like Tyrese Maxey is always going to be a bit limited in the aspect where he's 6'3", a generous 6'3" and needs some space to launch it. Niang's a real deal 6'7" and it barely jumps when he lets it fly. So he's just willing to let it go whenever he can space the floor with whatever lineup. The Bucks series, I think, is one where he could definitely capitalize on, but there's also ones where he can totally be exposed defensively. So that's going to be one where I'm curious how Doc has the feel for it. When Niang's hitting shots, he's super important to this team, but when he's not, it's tough to leave him out there for too long.
Maxey, you brought him up. It's funny how you keep segueing me into the next question, which is like awesome. It's like uncanny that you're doing that. So Maxey's back. He's definitely back. The offensive, the burst, the shots are falling. He's still, as he's been, is a question mark on defense. How much of an impact is that going to be a problem in the playoffs? Or do you think by the end of this last, 18 or so games, they'll get this worked out and they'll figure it out? I think Harden playing better defense helps it a little bit, but is it a big problem?
Yeah, I mean, they compound each other, the Harden Maxey backcourt, because neither one of them are ever going to be in the running for an all defense team for sure. And it stinks because it's like for different reasons. Harden's kind of defensive shortcomings tend to be more mental and as far as spacing out or not chasing a guy around a screen, things like that. For Maxey, it's more physical and that he just can get overpowered. He's not big enough for a lot of matchups. And when you kind of look towards like who the Sixers could match up with, teams like the Celtics, where it's like, all right, who's guarding Jaylen Brown out of U2 or something like that? There's some difficult spots that they're put in for. That was the whole mindset, but behind getting D'Anthony Melton in the starting lineup to get more of a defensive push there. But I think you're seeing over these past couple games, especially like Maxey just looks significantly more comfortable playing with the starters. The offense that he can bring most of the time makes up for the defensive shortcomings. And that's where guys like PJ Tucker, with like Joel Embiid, like Jalen McDaniels kind of come in to cover up for that. Because while Maxey competes defensively, there's going to be matchups that he just kind of can't handle, but they got to kind of find that balance of if his offense is worth it and making up for it, which most of the time it does, then you got to kind of bite the bullet on that. But there's definitely, I wish he was a couple inches bigger and a little stronger that we didn't have to worry about it, but it's just kind of like, you got to make do with what you got.
I would ask you about Embiid, but that's just too obvious of a question. Before I let you go, I think I have two left, but this one I definitely have to let you have your Paul Reed victory tour, because we did some pregame shows in the summer league as well as like right before the preseason games, and I had asked you because they had just gotten Harrell. I remember you and Thiago. I'm like, where is this dude going to play? And you guys couldn't answer that, but you guys were so avid about Paul Reed. And now I'm not a Paul Reed hater, but I agree with you, and you were all kind of right. The more minutes he's playing, the more he's learning to work out the kinks, not make the dumb plays, and kind of prove himself. Go, have your victory tour. Paul Reed is the backup center, right?
Yeah, he absolutely should be. PJ Tucker will get some minutes as a small ball five, but Paul Reed, as far as your traditional center, if you want to call him that, that's our guy. Like, there's just something there when it comes to, he has like an energy and an effort level that can swing a game and that he can take over. His ability to compete on the boards is something that no one on this team really matches. And he is improving. He is getting a little bit more of a normal basketball player. He's improved as a screener on the offensive end, willing to go in, work the pick and roll. That's something. He blocks shots. He can switch 1 through 5, which to me was the biggest thing that always jumped out to me about him, is he's not a liability by any means. And when we've gone through the walking zombies of backup center with the DeAndre Jordans and Dwight Howards and everything in between, it's like these guys are just getting switched onto a guard and just completely taken advantage of. That's never going to be the case for Paul Reed, and he is developing. So keep giving him minutes, keep letting him play through it, and there could be a time where it matters in the playoffs. He played very well in the playoffs last year, and he hasn't really had the opportunity to improve upon that until lately. I'm happy it's happening, and I'm happy it's happening before it's too late.
Final question. The guy who wouldn't give him minutes, Doc Rivers, doesn't get any credit for the wins, gets a ton of credit for the losses, at least Sixers Twitter-wise. Where are you at on Doc Rivers right now? Has he found something? Has he improved, or are they just on a hot streak and we're going to see same old Doc come playoff time?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely a fair concern, and I won't say I'm going to sit up here and defend Doc Rivers by any means. I'm not the biggest Doc guy, but he does deserve credit where credit's due, and they've been playing some really good basketball lately. He's made some decisions that have impressed me as far as rotations. He's starting to stagger the minutes where it's instead of going to these all-bench units, he's keeping one of Harden or Embiid on the floor at all times, which to me is common sense and should have always been the case. But to at least see him making the adjustment and having that is steps in the right direction. So there's always going to be the demons. There's always going to be the concerns. But I mean, there hasn't been too much that I'm that upset about at this point in the season. So I'm approaching it with an open mind and hopeful that it's a little different.
Are we getting out of the second round?
I think we do. I think they make a conference finals this year. I'm bought in that this is the year that they can at least take that step forward.
Cool. Well, thanks for your time, Sean. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, Freddie, appreciate you for having me. You can check me out on Twitter at Sean_Barnard1. Check out Pick Swap Media for all my audio and video podcasts over there. I've got a couple other guys dropping stuff as well. And then my written work on Philly Sports Network for all my Sixers stuff and some college and other NBA on Sportskeeda as well.
Sounds good. Check out Sean during the Sixers game. Yeah, what I would do is I'd put the Sixers game on and then just watch Sean's Twitter, and then it'll explain everything for you. So thanks for coming on, Sean. All right, everyone. It's almost time for Phillies. Got a special guest there as well, but I gotta again switch the hat, pull out the bald head. It's Phillies hat time. Here we go. Rocking the Phils now. And now I have a very special guest. I found her on her podcast, the Bell Smashers podcast. Then I found out she works for 97.5 as well. Haley, are we going by Taylor? On Twitter, what are we going by?
I know, it's the most confusing thing. I usually just go the full three: Haley, Taylor, Simon. Haley, Taylor, Haley, Simon. Haley is fine too.
Cool. My middle name's Hugo, and I had a Fred Hugo phase on Twitter for a little bit where I went back and forth. So I was like, I wonder if she's doing the same thing.
So you get it.
I get it. I totally get it. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I caught you on one of those TikToks. I wasn't on TikTok, but I guess you tweeted it. It was about Andrew Painter. And then I started to listen to the actual podcast. Good stuff. It's a good show.
Thank you. I love doing it. The girls are awesome, and we get to talk a lot of baseball, so not bad in the off season.
So speaking of baseball, you're here to talk Phillies. What's your vibes on spring training so far? Watching on TV just gets me in like a summer vibe already. What's your first takeaways from spring training so far?
Yeah, so my first takeaways are that these guys are hungry, and they're definitely playing at a competitive level in these spring training games. We're seeing a lot of home runs, and that is something that I wasn't expecting this much early on for the guys to really be nailing it on, but they're doing a fantastic job with the contact with the ball. I'm also noticing some great defense. Derek Hall has been outstanding defensively, so I've been noticing that as well. But I mean, right now, the guys to look out for are definitely Alec Bohm. He is somebody that surprised all of Phillies Nation last season, and he has done nothing but the best in the spring training so far.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions for you. Alec Bohm, he's put on 15 pounds of muscle.
Oh, yeah.
And they're saying that I saw the one opposite field home run, which is a sign of that muscle to power that out of there. What do we expect from Bohm? He had 13 home runs last year. Are we looking at 20, 25? And how has his fielding been?
Yeah, so I mean, the way that I'm looking at Bohm this coming season, definitely a lot of home runs, but most importantly, he is going to be one of the stronger hitters in this roster that we have. So right now, if I'm able to maybe project like a lineup, right, I would put him at the bottom middle. So definitely not, obviously not going to start off lead, but definitely more towards the bottom. I could see him being a player that's clutch, that's going to get on base when we need him to get on base. And especially with those home runs, I mean, as you said, 13 last season, definitely more than that. I am expecting about 17 to 20 home runs this season from Bohm. So definitely a lot more contact with the ball.
Yeah, I'm excited for Bohm as well. What do you think? This is one of the other Clearwater takeaways, and I thought I was going to hate it. I really did, but I absolutely love it. The pitch clock. What's your thoughts on the pitch clock?
I'm iffy on the pitch clock. I like how it speeds up the game a little bit because sometimes it can drag out. But today on my podcast we pre-recorded, a good point was brought up in the big moments of the games, and this comes to postseason, to have a pitch clock be only 15 seconds, it's like you kind of need some more time, especially if it's like a big game. But I'm not opposed. I think it's going to be some adjustment, right, when we watch the game. And as a fan, as somebody that covers the team, it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. But so far, so good. And I've kind of been able to zone it out now when watching the game.
Yeah, I enjoy the time as well, and I have kids, right? So
Right.
I can't let them stay up till 11. But if I can push it to like if the game starts ending at 9:30, I can sometimes let them stay up if it's a
Like,
close
oh,
game.
that's okay. Yeah, that's weekend bedtime.
What I hate is I wish that like on Saturday and Sundays they could just get rid of it because I love just putting the game on, having it on all day, have a
Right.
couple beers, relax,
Oh,
watching
that's
it.
the
So
best. Like, I love when I'm down at the bank and I'm able just to relax for hours on end, extra innings, be my guest. I love it. So the fact that the game's going to be a little bit sped up, I think it definitely takes away from the feel of, watching a baseball game. But at the same time, there's a reason behind the mayhem, right? So there's a reason why it's being done.
the World Baseball Classic, I think they just started today, actually.
Yeah.
And the Phillies are going to lose Real Muto, Schwarber, Turner, Stubbs, Soto, Sir Anthony Dominguez. There's one other.
Jose?
Walker.
Did Jose get in?
Maybe. Either way, whoever's gone, how much of an impact do you think that has on the team going into the opening day? Or does it have really no impact at all because they're playing baseball?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a positive impact, to be honest. When you look at Team USA, especially, you have Trout on the team, you have different, I like to say studs on the team, right? You have Tucker. So when you look at that team and you think about the Phillies players playing with those guys, it's going to definitely motivate them because they're going to be like, you know what, we could play these guys in big games. So I think for the guys that are still at spring training, obviously it's a big loss to have a lot of your really talented, members of your team be off in the World Baseball Classic. But I think that as a team coming opening day, it will be an advantage because the guys that are playing in this will feel empowered and motivated to be successful. When you have the best of the best playing with each other and against each other, it's definitely going to push for that extra drive going forward.
I never thought of it like that. You got that. You're almost start the competitive jitters
Yes.
before the season starts. That's a great point. This lineup, obviously, on paper is amazing, right? And I don't want to ask you about Trey Turner. That's the obvious. But, like, he's going to be good.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be good. Yeah.
Like, if he's a bust, like, it'll be such a disappointment. A guy we signed last year who struggled all year, Nick Castellanos.
Yep.
I love him, dude. I want him to do good so bad. And especially in the playoffs when he started to, like, I know he sucks at fielding, but, like, he made these plays in the field. And he was actually, it seemed like he was trying. He seems as though he's improved his approach at the plate so far. What's your thoughts on Nick?
Yeah, so far so good. Last year, obviously, very disappointing by Castellanos, especially in that postseason run where he was swinging at everything. But going into last season, I was so excited about him. And I remember it was the second day of opening day at the bank, and he hit a 2-run home run. And I said, this guy is going to be phenomenal. He's going to carry the team, and he's going to be the home run leader. And then that quickly went away. I think this is a redemption season for him. I really do. To have the season he had last season and to endure all the negativity and even the people commenting, oh, it's because you live in Ben Simmons' old house. He had to deal with a lot of stuff. So I think going into this season, he's going to have that spark underneath him as well as Reese Hoskins. He's another guy that's going to have a spark underneath him due to the negative feedback that the fans gave. But I could really see him coming out strong. There's going to be moments where he's going to be dry, and that happens with all the players, right? That's how baseball works. 162 games is a lot, but I can see Castellanos definitely redeeming himself.
Hopefully. Let's move over to the yep.
Big hopefully.
Because the booze will get very, very bad this year. If
very bad. Like, Philly fans are crazy in a good way. I love our fans. Just crazy.
Schizophrenic, I'll say.
Yes.
In a good way.
One day it's love, one day it's hate.
Moving over to the pitchers, I want to get into the closer, but first, how I came to see who you were. The TikTok Andrew Painter, who was kind of we still don't know what's up with the injury. I don't think they're going to tell us. But who do you think, and it might not even have been him, who do you think is going to fill in at that fifth starter? Barely Falter. Who do you think if it's not Painter, who's it going to be?
I say Ranger. I think Ranger will end up being that fifth starter. The problem right now with the Phillies is, and it's a good problem, for once, we finally have a solid bullpen. And we finally have, closers. We finally have our aces and Wheeler and Nola. So we're in a good situation. And obviously what's going on right now with Painter is brutal, but we do have good backup assets. So that is something that I'm not nervous about. I do like Bailey. Don't get me wrong. Faulkner is all right. But what I saw in the postseason, and again, that's with Connor Brogdon, those I just can't trust it, right? So when you look at certain players, for me, I'm going to be a little bit biased, and I'd rather have a guy like Ranger, who I know is more of a closer, and I get that now. But at the same time, you need to just have that consistency. So I'm hoping for Painter to be okay. A report did come out that I was actually talking to the guys at the radio about, that the Phillies are trying to get like second opinions from different doctors. So it looks like it's one of those situations where they heard bad news and they're going somewhere else instead. And hopefully that will be good news, even though it most likely will still be the same news. So hoping for that good news, but the Phillies are in a good situation when it comes to their pitching.
So you Rangers at 5, then what's your rotation then? You got Wheeler, Nola, Walker's now in there.
Yeah.
Then Ranger.
Yeah.
Who am I missing?
I don't think. Well, then you would have to put in one of the guys like Bailey Faulkner.
Then it would be Faulkner
so I would
there.
then
Okay.
move Ranger to 4, and then I would put Faulkner at 5.
Okay.
Switch it up a little bit.
I think I would do that too.
Yeah.
The closer spot is a 100%. I mean, I feel like I want to give it to Sir Anthony Dominguez, but the new age baseball does this thing where they mix it all around. Do you think it should go to Dominguez? Will it go to Dominguez, or will it be committee again?
I think committee again, 100%. I think Dominguez is the best when it comes to closing on the team, but it's one of those things where it's going to be a rotation. I could even see Jose being in there a little bit, Alvarado. It's just one of those things. Until we see how these guys play regular season early on, we're not going to be able to determine that. But if I had to make any bets, if I was a betting person, which I am, I would say committee. Committee.
You're probably right. All right, fun questions now. Who's your all-time favorite Philly?
Ryan Howard, without a doubt.
Ah, dude, look, he's right here on my wall right here.
Oh, man, I love that. See? Favorite player, without a doubt. When I think of Phillies, I think of him.
The big piece. I was telling my daughter about it. Man, I got the bobblehead right here, too. But,
I love it. Number 6 for life.
Yeah, he's a top Philly, in my opinion. And then I guess what we're supposed to hate the Mets. Would that be your most hated rival? I don't know how old you are, but I kind of grew up in the 90s, and the Mets just stunk. So I still have hate for the Braves. Is it the Mets or the Braves for you?
Yeah, so I'm 24, so I grew up in the 2000s. I would have to say the Braves. I always grew up hating the Mets because everybody around me hated the Mets, but definitely the Braves. They're just one of those teams where if the Mets are successful, I'm like, whatever. If the Braves become successful, which they have been, it actually kills me. So definitely the Braves.
Oh, wow. That's good. They got like a snobbiness to them. And I'm with you.
They're entitled. And I'm like, whoa. No way.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming on. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So you can find me on Twitter at Haley T. Simon. And luckily, all the links for my articles and podcasts are all in my bio in the links. So I make it super easy for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Go Phils.
Thank you. You as well. Have a nice one. Go Phils.
See you. That was Haley Simon from the Bell Smashers pod and 97.5 The Fanatic. Next up, we have some Flyers talk. But before we get to the Flyers, one more time, we're going to go through our amazing advertisers. And let's start that off with David Archerry, Esquire. Call him now, 610-566-0300. Workers' compensation issues, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, criminal law. The Cherry Firm got you covered. www.cherryinjurylaw.com. And again, call David Archerry, 610-565-0300. Do you need tickets to the big game? I got you covered there as well. Sherry's Ticket Town. Go to www.sherrystickets.com. They just have an amazing price point. They're always cheaper than or close to the competition. And if they're right on the line, we got you covered there too. Type in the promo code EOP10. Save 10% on Sherry's tickets. And if you're not into the sports, they do other things as well. Concerts. And my favorite story is Disney on Ice. I needed to get tickets the day before, and I was kind of scrambling for my daughter and my children, and I wanted to get close because once you go to Disney on Ice close, you really can't bring your kids up top. It's not the same experience. All the tickets everywhere else on the secondary market were 110, 120, 130, 15 rows off, $81 from Sherry's Ticket Town. So check them out. Go to www.sherrystickets.com. Let's say you want to travel outside the Philadelphia area, though, and go to a big sports games. Oh, I got the best for you there. PhilliesSportsTrips.com. Travel like the pros. They sell out almost immediately. This is how great of a company Philly Sports Trips is. Their next trip that's upcoming is a bus trip to Yankee Stadium on April 3rd to the Bronx. I went a few years ago. It was top of the line tailgate, top of the line food, mixed drinks, music. It's just a good vibe. Go to PhillySportsTrips.com. Book your trip now. And they even do tailgates, which I think is cool, that are top of the line. So you pay like $80, I think most times $70, $80, something in that area, depending on the game and the level and all that. But the next one they have coming up is for opening day. You could just go right tailgate opening day with Philly Sports Trips and have a great day, go into the game after, and then you could go back to Sherry's Tickets to get your tickets even. So go to PhillySportsTrips.com today. And one more, say you don't want to go to the game, you don't want to travel, you don't want to pay for any of that, but you want to go out for the game. I got you covered there too. DolansBar.com. Go to Dolan's Bar, 24 East Sellers Ave, Ridley Park, right in Delco. They got Quizzo music, great games, memorabilia giveaways. They always have some kind of cool event with a former player or current player there. Go to DolansBar.com, see what event they have going on, and stop down, get a beer. Amazing food as well. DolansBar.com. Now to close out, and before we go to my man here, I gotta switch my hat one more time, everyone. I can't believe I have one of these the way it's been, but we're gonna pull it out. The Flyers cap comes on. It's probably going to go against what I'm going to, in my opinion, but the Flyers cap is now on, and now I will bring on from Edge of Philly Sports. He does Fighting's Final. He does the Flyers Final. He does all types of stuff here. He has his own show on Tuesday nights. Matty B.
Fred, what's up, man? I like the hat, man. Keep repping. You gotta hold strong these times, man. This is the times that test men's souls, man. You know what I mean?
I agree, but any promotion of the slop I'm having, like I'm always a Flyers fan, but I'm kind of rooting for them to lose.
Absolutely.
And then they started doing some winning, which kind of pissed me off in the middle of the season. But, let's get first to the big up. Something happened last night that we'll touch on with the spearing, but they made no trades. I mean, they made a few stupid, dumb trades, and you can elaborate on if you like them or not. But they had an asset in JVR that is going to walk, and I don't care if the compensation was nothing, like or a cash to me name later. Like, why did they not trade JVR?
Freddie, I spent an hour last night kind of on the Flyers, like 1 hour by myself talking about the Flyers. And obviously the JVR trade deadline or no trade deadline was a number one topic. And I've gone back and forth trying to think, the guy scored, he's a 300 plus goal scorer in his career. He's a hell of an asset to have in front of that net. He does really well. He's got quick hands in front of the net. He's a big body to move around. He does feast at that goal line, and he is exactly what you would want if you're a team that's pushing for the Stanley Cup and, a solid third line guy, because that's what he would be on a contending team. And I think it comes down to that goddamn contract, ready? I mean, $7 million annual. Same reason why the Kraken didn't take him 2 years ago in the expansion draft. And I think it's the same reason, even though Chuck Fletcher was trying to get him on the cheap, or he was going to suck up half of his contract, $3.5 million, just wasn't like appetizing for many players or many teams. And I actually believe Fletcher when he said he only got one offer on JVR. I don't know what we think JVR is, but the rest of the NHL has an assumption of JVR, and it's the contract, ready? It's the contract.
Dude, I'm sure he could have dealt it. He wanted to get. Here's what happened. He wanted to get more, and he held out, and then he was caught at the end. Like, oh, I only have this 3-way trade, and all these teams are like, nah. There's no way. All right, how much is left on the deal?
Well, this is it. This is the final year.
Then who cares? Oh man, I still. But all right, moving forward, I could see that point of view. And you're the only one of the guests I debate it with, so I feel I shouldn't have done that. But I just feel we have that vibe with each other.
No, that's fine. No, I bring it on. So.
There's been rumblings from the fans. Sell this team, Comcast. Yeah. Sell the team. Should they sell the team? Will they fire anyone and bring in new management? Or is it to the point where the fans just have to boycott the team to see actual change?
Yeah, and I think it's the latter of what you said with the boycotting. I think the Flyers right now feel that they have the right people in place, not so much at the CEO level, but down there at the hockey operations and the management side of things. I think Chuck Fletcher has sold them on a rebuild, and that's what it is. And Chuck kind of admitted to that last Friday after the trade deadline when Charlie O'Connor really kind of pressed him on why Flyer fans should feel confident that Fletcher is the guy that's going to be able to handle this. And he kind of says some things that he's never said before and really alluding to the rebuild thing, but the retool is out. But I don't think that I think that the fans have no other choice but to do what you said, take drastic measures. I've seen everything from that town hall meeting with the booing of Chuck Fletcher to the guy standing in the hallway of the Wells Fargo Center with a paper bag over his head saying, fire Fletcher, sell the team. That's what it's going to come down to, is the power of the people.
Hambo 26, check it in with the attacking third. Nobody wanted to foot the bill on that albatross of a contract, which is another terrible move by the Flyers. But there you go. Someone agreeing with you there. And it is a crazy contract. You guys,
and it's not
right. I'm being emotional.
And you know, that's not Fletcher's doing, right? That if Fletcher didn't bring
thank you for correcting me.
Fletcher did not bring him here. It was Hextall.
How long has Fletcher been here? 3 years?
Fletcher came on board in December of 2018. He was the once they fired Hextall, he came on. They were really struggling. Remember, it was the 8 goalie years when he came here in 2018, and they fired Hextall.
He's been here this long.
The team was out in Western Canada at the time. They waited until they came back. Then they fired Hextall, and they hired Scott Gordon from the Phantoms to take over as the interim coach. He immediately promoted Carter Hart from Lehigh Valley to Philadelphia. And that was something the fans were calling for back in September during camp, that this kid was ready. He shouldn't be in the minors. Why is Hextall consistently running all of our why are none of our young players, these alleged great prospects, why are these guys still playing in the minors? Why are not any of them playing for the actual team? And that was one of his first moves. So yeah, he came here in December of 2018 because that's when he first got here.
Is there any hope? Do we have hope? And yeah, well, I'll ask the hope first. Any hope?
Do we have any hope for what? Flyers?
Yeah, like do I have anything I can say, all right, you know what? Let me hold my hat on this. Is it like, or is it what it's been? Like, okay, you guys get it now. Like, you can't compete, start losing, get the players out of the game, make injuries up, do what you got to do, start losing.
Yeah, and you know, man, is there any hope? I like to believe there is, and you know, obviously a fan has every right to feel like there's none because they're not seeing anything. They're not seeing the sexy moves. They're not seeing any kind of, you know, vertical movement, as I like to call it. And yeah, I know they're frustrated, and I'm frustrated. Every single, you know, I was calling for his head on the trade deadline day because, as you couldn't trade him to anywhere. JVR couldn't get moved anywhere. I got it. You don't want to make the big moves. Understand that. Come on, man. JVR. Yeah, I feel the same way. But here's the thing. You know, the team is going to drop JVR $7 million this year. That's $7 million additional cap. They're going to have probably a top 5 draft pick. It's not going to be Bednar. It's not going to be one, but they're going to have a top 5 pick. They got 2 first-round picks next season. The process, and I hate to say that word because it's not a good word around here, but the process has begun here in Philadelphia for the Flyers. And 5 years, maybe 5 years before we're legitimately a cup contender again. But I think if we can start seeing some things happen starting this summer, some players jettisoned, some changes made. And I think changes have been made off the ice already. Tortorella alluded to this when he first took over the job, that he was surprised about the amount of entitlement that was inside that building when he got there. Well, he's gotten rid of some of those people, both on and off the ice, hurt people. So I think that you're kind of building this thing from the ground up, and then now it's time for the hockey team. So I say hope, yes, but we need to start seeing something. They need to, as like the consumer or as the product, they need to start showing the consumer something in terms of that progress.
No doubt about it. Any hope for this lottery? Let's get in the top 5. There are some good players outside of the 5, but hopefully we get there. Before I let you go, I don't even think I just look it up now to see if they lost or won. That's how bad the product is for me. I mean, they were competitive for a while, so I can't totally knock that. But I didn't watch the game, but I saw on Twitter Tony DeAngelo with the spearing to the guys, it looked like groin to me. And then it kind of it looked like he was defending himself a little bit, or he was annoyed at the questioning after the game. He had some, questions about his character coming here. I think he's not going to play the next 2 games. What's your thoughts on that situation? And should they just say, dude, we don't have time for that stuff. You're done for the rest of the year, and help us lose in that sense too.
Yeah, well, the helping us lose obviously is huge. And by the way, Tyson Forrester has been called up to replace DeAngelo. Forrester is one of Fletcher's first draft picks that he selected. It was actually during the COVID year, so Tyson Forrester will be coming up. But as far as DeAngelo goes, it's a two-way. It was a heinous penalty. I watched it. I saw it. And I think it was more of a frustration move. I think everybody's frustrated on that team right now. They were getting skated out of that building last night by a superior team. And I'm not condoning it, but I can understand why he did it. But isn't that the kind of character that we want? Wasn't that what we were recalling for as fans over the last 2, 3, 4 seasons? That this team has gone soft. Now we want some people that are going to stand up for themselves and fight. Now, again, I got it. Spearing is not the way you do it.
That ain't tough.
No, it's not. It's not tough. But
dropping the thing and putting the gloves up. Okay.
Yeah. I personally have no issues with Tony DeAngelo. I don't know him personally, so I'm not going to comment on his personal life. But as a hockey player, he's a D2, and we need a D2. And we have a lack of defensemen on this team. And right now, he is the best defenseman we have, and that's unfortunate if you don't like him as a person or his character. It was a goon move last night. It was. But as far as like suspending him for the rest of the year, yeah, I mean, if it helps us lose, yeah, absolutely.
All right, I brought you on for Flyers, but I'm gonna give you a little moment here with this Green Eagles team because I am probably the only one, and I stayed on the fence because I thought he had a good offseason, but I'm the only one that still questioned his draft besides you on this network. How big is this upcoming draft? The holes are about to come out, as we knew would happen, as you said would happen, but everyone, not everyone. Some people thought they were going to somehow pay all these contracts. It's take your Howie moment here. What's going to happen here?
I'm out of practice. I haven't talked about him in a while. So listen, Fred, I'm going to counter that question back with a question to you first. In your fandom life as an Eagle fan, or, we'll talk the Eagles. Have you ever remembered a season where we had 18 pending free agents? Do you ever remember that at all in your time as an Eagle fan? Because I don't, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember that. Do you remember at any point in Eagle history where there was 18 free agents in one single season?
I don't know because they didn't cover it like that, but I'm sure there might have been 12 or something where they were easy signings that you knew they were coming back on whatever contracts, because they weren't that great, which may happen with some cases, but we've had big name guys we know we're leaving. We were yelling at Banner, Vincent and Taylor, but the difference is the replacement. Well, maybe Jordan Davis fills in for Hargrave, but the replacements were already in place.
No, and listen, you're right. But to me, this is the blueprint that he started following in 2021. After he decided he couldn't run it back anymore from 2017. He's just going to rebuild the team every year, strip it down at the end, and rebuild it again the following year. And to me, I don't like that. That's not sustained winning. That's attempting to catch lightning in the bottle. But to answer your question about the draft, it's damn important. And it's with less draft picks than we've had in a long time. With 6 is the total number that we have in this draft. We have 2 firsts, I believe, a second, 2 thirds, and then we don't pick again to the 7th round or something like that. I mean, that's a big gap. So I don't know how he's going to do it. Is he going to try to get some comp picks? Do we get comp picks for some of these free agents this year? I know we get some for next year. So I'm not really certain how he's going to do this, but yeah, whatever it ends up being, It's going to have to be a big draft, and I don't see him trading either one of those first-round picks. I think that would be wrong to do. Would you not agree?
I may trade back, but I wouldn't trade out. I may trade, or maybe the last one, the first round, the 10 I'm picking, unless there's like I can trade back to 12 or 13 and get some value. Say someone wants to come up and take the quarterback Richardson. We're probably not. Hey, I won't put in past them taking a quarterback. That would be oh my God, I'd have another rant. Anyhow, I would trade out of the first round back into the early second if that added a fourth or added a fifth. I don't think the gap is that big of a deal because undrafted free agents are our thing anyway. And most times those fifth, sixth, not the fifth, maybe the sixth, seventh, don't pan out or get cut. So I just wanted to give you some quick Howie time.
Well, I have another question for you about Howie. Not about Howie, about the Eagles. About the Eagles roster. Nakobe Dean. Now, am I missing something on this, or can you explain to me why he didn't see the field? Was it a rotation problem? Was it?
I don't think they expect I don't think they expected TJ Edwards to play at that level for 16 games.
So you don't think Nakobe Dean's a bust? It's just a matter of just kind of working him in.
He fell for a reason, and it wasn't injury. There's teams that just were concerned with his size. I know at Georgia, he's the quarterback of the defense. His IQ was amazing. That's what he was. So, I mean, I think we're going to have to just see. I don't think he's a bust, though. I just, what I saw, he may be undersized. That may be the issue. But we're going to find out because we don't pay for linebackers. And I agree with not paying for linebackers. Just don't be drafting safeties and trying to turn them into linebackers like Nate Jerry. And they've done it with a few others. Or defensive ends that you want to turn into middle line. It's just crazy. So, yeah, I think Nadine works out. I also think you may get White or TJ back once they test the market because they're not going to get as much as they think, especially Kazir.
And so out of those 18 free agents, Freddie, realistically, what do you got? Maybe 5 or 6 coming back?
Yeah, I think the big name ones go. The interior of the offensive line is most important in this league. Anyhow, don't think they're going back to the Super Bowl, but you can't see a regression from the offense. That's the main thing. I feel
they're intact. They're intact. And that's
the key to the league, in my opinion. Like, you need that. And then the defense you can mess around with every year. I mean, how many years do we see the Chiefs with a terrible D and then they just get it together? You know what I mean? So what I would like to see, it's not going to happen, though, because it's going to be too long of a contract. I would have liked them. Maybe my thought is to sign Bradbury to the deal, depending on what it is, and then just move on from Slay with drafting a corner at 10. So then you get this kid to sit behind both of them for 1 year. Slay moves on because he's going to be, 33 at that point. We're not going to sign him until 38. And he's already shown signs here and there of not being able to be at his level that we're accustomed to see him in Detroit and at times. So that's what I would like. But yeah, Hargrave's probably gone. CJ's gone. Marcus Epps is a name that a lot of other teams are enamored with, so they say. They were big on him in training camp. Do they see him just filling in that void for CJ? I don't know.
And what about this aversion to using the franchise tag, Freddie? I mean, I don't know why they don't do it. Maybe it's this Howie does not like paying that kind of money for 1 year. I mean, what is your take on that? Because I would have franchised at least one of these D players, at least one of them, for continuity's sake.
Maybe we'll have to see. Maybe there's other cap spots. He finagles the cap, and I think with the franchise tag, you're just locked into that number. You can't play games with it. You know what I mean? Where his thing is like, I'll make a signing bonus, and then I'll stretch that over this. So they may sign someone to a $40 million contract, but this year it'll only be $5 million, and they'll get 15 on the signing bonus, so it only counts against the cap 5. Where the franchise tag, the whole thing's right on there. So. I also agree to a point because then you take away the fact of the disgruntled player, which would become an issue, especially you could tell by CJ Gardner-Johnson. He's that type of guy that he would vocally, say his issues. He's no problem saying that. Hargrave, I think you're kind of doing right by the guys too, as an organization. You're like, hey, this is your time to get paid. You gave your time here. I'm not going to stop you. You get injured and not make, and that gives a good vibe about the organization, I think, for players that come here, that, hey, I'm not going to get to the end of my deal and just get screwed with them just franchising me.
Yeah, good point.
So, But that's it for tonight. I appreciate your time coming on.
Anytime.
As always, where can everyone find you?
All over EOP, as Freddie said at the beginning there. I host my own show on Tuesday nights called Talking Philly Sports with Matty B. Also, I am part of the crew of Clear the Ice, the Flyers, the only Flyers post-game show still in operation in the English-speaking world. Myself, Al, Mike Lauro, and the Gobbler do a fine job covering your Flyers. And as you also mentioned, Season 2 of the Fighting's Final is getting ready to be revved up, bigger, better, and better than Season 1 as we come and hopefully defend our National League Championship and take it all the way this year.
And it won't be as late because you got the pitch clock.
Right. Yeah. Oh, pitch timer. There's no clock in baseball, Freddie. It's a pitch timer.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
Here, man.
All right, that was Matty B, and that's it for tonight. I kind of got some of my takes in there with the Eagles, with Matty B. Sixers, can we stop trashing this team? They fight every single night. They fight every night, no matter win or lose. Stop trashing them. Get behind them. Support this team. And Phillies, I don't know how you can't be hyped for spring training. It's that time of year. It's just got that vibes. And Sundays and Saturdays, just putting it on. Though the pitch clock, as Haley and I discussed, is not going to be the same long Saturday where it's 4 hours on. And then Flyers, sell the team. Just sell it. Comcast, sell the team. You've alienated even your own fan base that typically never leaves. That little pocket of Flyers fans that don't leave. Booed at the season ticket holder press conference. For Al, Big Al, and Joe Sheeran, I'm Freddie Burns. They're off tonight. Check us out next week. EOP 8:30. As always, have a good night.